Rob Schneider joins me in mere seconds. Then Dr. Peter McCullough. I don't know if you were listening to the Ron Johnson Senate hearings today, but we'll be discussing both with Rob and Dr. McCullough those hearings, which were quite impressive. Then we will be visited by Christina Bobb. She has looked at the 2020 election. She has a book from 2023 called Stealing Your Vote. All that after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
I've spent most of my career dealing with illnesses that shorten life, and now we have ways to extend it and extend wellness. I've been working with the team over at V-Shred to develop a product that has everything I want in a longevity supplement. NR Boost has nicotinamide riboside. You know, metal can rust. Well, your body behaves in a similar way. It's mediated through something called NAD. NAD falls as we age, so we're less able to fight off that oxidative process. We oxidize much like that metal. And NAD fights it, but nicotinamide riboside elevates NAD so we can push back on those oxidative stressors, improving health, improving longevity. The other product is Senosync, has fisetin, one of the key molecules to fight off zombie cells, and we've added resveratrol to that, which is a well-known anti-aging antioxidant again. I don't like supplements that have a ton of ingredients. To me, it suggests that none of it's working. When I prescribe a medication, I prescribe that medicine because I expect that to work. That is exactly what I've done with these products. And I want you to go to drdrew.com/vshredmd for 10% off. Again, that is drdrew.com/vshredmd. And before I bring my buddy Rob Schneider in here, I want to apologize to Christina. I misstated her new book. That was her old book. The new book is Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. We'll talk a little Lawfare. But right now, someone who needs a little to no introduction, Rob Schneider. Hello, my friend.
Thank you, sir. And I want to thank you for not only stating what needs to be said in a real clear and concise, but also, talking when you were having that conversation with Cuomo. And it really is, first of all, having any conversation with Cuomo is difficult because it's basically like talking to a ripe pumpkin. He's just, he's about as inquisitive as a pumpkin and has the same
come on.
Intelligence
levels.
I would
defend him, and I defend you to him and him to you. He's a very bright dude, and he knows what he knows, and he is hard to persuade.
He's not, and he's, he plays the devil's advocate, and because but he doesn't do it out of anything except ignorance. But anyway, so I'm glad that you were able to say that because so much of our medicine, not only when it comes to vaccines, which has been the hot button radioactive topic, as you and I know for over a decade now, it's all of our patient care needs to be dealt with not but simply from the standpoint of the individual patient, for what the doctor and the patient decide to do with each other, as opposed to this draconian idea that, all drugs need to be, given to all patients all the time. And as you know, there's never been a drug, and vaccines are drugs, that is 100% safe 100% of the time for 100% of the people. And so if you do have risk, like what you said so eloquently, there has to be a risk-benefit analysis to all this stuff. And the first most important part, which stymied the other guest on Cuomo's show, was do no harm. First, do no harm. And there really isn't. I mean, the problem with a lot of people in the medical establishment is they just say these grandiose assumptions, and it's basically repeated verbiage, which is that there are so many of these tests, that we have so many of these studies, and there really isn't. For the hepatitis B shot, just to pummel this into the ground even more, the only reason it was given to the children was because in 1990, under Bush 1, Merck who spent $1 billion on the drug, and it was originally supposed to be for teenagers and people in their 20s who were engaging in these unsafe, whether it was sexual or whether it was needles, and nobody was taking it. So what they said, and it's in the New York Times in September 1990.
Send me that.
Merck said, if they're not going to if adults won't take this, we'll give them to babies. And it was that specific, and that, to me, devious, because it really wasn't about, and it kind of led the way for what's happened in the last 35 years since, is that you have patient care that isn't on the basis of the individual, basically an all, it's like a spray paint. They're just a kind of all-encompassing stuff. So, I think now you have, with Robert Kennedy, I mean, truly a lifelong Democrat. And there is no name that speaks of Democratic Party more than Kennedy. And so for the Democratic Party to just attack him, not one person to come over and say, I agree with at least what he's saying, it's a real telltale sign of where we're at politically, but also where we're at in the power of pharma and the medical industrial complex to control the conversation, and not just control the conversation, but actually to control legislation and to control the way our medicine and our health is given out to our people. So I think when you say something is captured, I think you can safely say our medical establishment has been captured.
Have you seen the Ron Johnson hearings this afternoon? They're very interesting.
I did not see them, but Ron is fantastic. So this was a committee hearing. This wasn't in front of the full Senate, obviously.
No, this is just getting the data together. It was really quite interesting. It was really well done. There were some excesses on both sides, but I think the ultimate, Ron is the perfect, Senator Johnson is the perfect guy to mediate this. And it was, I interviewed him a couple of years ago, and it's interesting to see his level of sophistication. Now is way up. He is all over the data. But Rob, there's a couple things you said I want to comment on. One was I was in and around the hepatitis B research, the vaccine research. My residency director was one of the lead research centers for this. And we were developing that vaccine for maternal fetal transmission in China, where they had a big problem with hepatitis B being transmitted to kids. That's what we were doing.
In
then
Taiwan,
when we had the vaccine,
Taiwan has it too.
And when we had the vaccine, we were like, oh, this will be good for healthcare workers too. So we also gave it to healthcare workers. That was it. The idea that we give it on hour one of a baby's life in every baby in the country, my understanding is the World Health Organization was involved in this too, is insane. There is not a baby born to a mother in this country who has hepatitis B that we don't already know that she has hepatitis B. And that baby needs the vaccine. All 600 to 800 of them, not the 100 million that are being born every decade in this country. It's wild. It's the wildest thing I've ever seen. So to me, the hepatitis B thing was one of the first sort of alarm buttons for me. And, I brought Jenny McCarthy in here, and I apologized to her for being dismissive of her vaccine questions. She was just a very active questioner. And I've never apologized to you, and I'm not going to because unlike with Jenny, when you told me to read stuff, I would read it. I wouldn't say, oh, my friend Rob is so nice. I go, I want to hear, Rob's a smart guy. What is he looking at? So you gave me Turtles All the Way Down, and he gave me all these books, and I read them. And it started my journey.
You did, but you know what I like about what you are malleable, and what has to happen to science is science has to be open-minded to it. The idea that this, the ignorance of science is settled is simply, what it does is it stops asking questions, and science must always continue to ask questions and to be humble.
Yes. Because
when you're talking about somebody's health, and we're talking about the health of a nation, what we've really done, and I don't mean to say that these medical interventions are completely useless, but I'm saying that the trade-off that we've done, and you have to look at the empirical evidence, and the empirical evidence really stands for itself. We have traded in for the giving up so kids don't get measles and mumps, and whether it's rubella or these other ones. What we have traded in is we've traded those childhood natural diseases that informed and boosted the immune system, but we can safely say we've traded it for what we have now, which is a lifelong chronic diseases for many people. And now you have children, and this is an old statistic that the NIH stopped giving out over 10 years ago now, but I think this is from 2013, 2014. 54% of America's children now suffer from chronic illnesses that were unheard of when you and I were kids. And we have to be able to look at that.
Yes.
And we have to say there's something wrong. So, I mean, I just remember there's some stuff you cannot say is definitive, but there was a man in the early 1970s that had, and this is according to the World Health Organization, who had multiple sclerosis, got smallpox, and it so supercharged his immune system that he recovered from his multiple sclerosis. So I think, the humility that we have that we don't understand everything with how our human body works and how the immune system works.
Yes.
The more humility that we approach with it, the more chance we have to, as you say, do no harm and to make incremental adjustments as opposed to something that could be what's happening to our country now, as we really have children who, with, obesity, childhood diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, allergies, peanut allergies. And I'm starting to understand some of the reasons for some of it are becoming clearer. And I don't speak as a physician. I just speak as someone who's interested and semi-knowledgeable from a layman's perspective, and say that, the aluminum adjuvants, which were in these vaccines, what it does is these are not inert. These are something that does have an effect, because the effect for the vaccines is to cause an immune response, and they want to be able to measure that. And so for some people, it is not a cataclysmic event in their immune system. For some people, it is. And so until we can find out the genetic predisposition for these patients, we have to make the assumption that it is not safe for everybody, and it is not okay for just to jam 80 shots into kids before the age of 6. So, I'm grateful that this conversation is happening. And I would just ask that the other people who question vaccines to have the same kindness and the same open-mindedness to the medical establishment, so that we don't repeat those with our own sense of we know it all. We need to also and be open to continued science. And I would just say, like, for people who were worried about the measles exploding again and mumps exploding. Well, I will tell you right now that more people died, statistically, empirical evidence, more people died from the scarlet fever than smallpox. And we do not have a scarlet fever vaccine. We do have a vaccine for tuberculosis, but virtually no one takes it. But yet we don't have this explosion in tuberculosis outbreak. So to make the assumption that we don't have this outside the drug, I'm serious, we don't have that outside a very specific group of people, which is homeless and drug addicts.
It's exploding there, but it's in Southern California. I treat it. It's all over the place. People don't understand how common it is now. It's become an endemic thing here because of us unattending to drug addicts in the street and mentally ill. But let me. I just want to do two quick things. I want to get away from the vaccine for a second, because I know you've got to go pretty quick. You'll like this. I mean, Susan has heard me say this until she's sick of it, but I was raised by an old family practitioner, and he hammered into my head, medicines are dangerous. They're always dangerous. You only take them when the risk is clearly worth it. I never had an antibiotic until I was 15. And I remember the day he brought him home. He was like, all right, your pediatrician wants to do it. I don't think so, but all right, you got to do it. It's what he wants to do. I wouldn't recommend it. And he just hammered that into me. Then to see medicine go and the society go in this direction where medication makes life wonderful or makes life only better, that is an insane adulteration. Medications are used for disabling and dangerous illnesses pretty much only. Other than that, it's pretty much not worth the risk. And the fact that we just look to these things to make us kind of feel better or do better, whatever, that we expect to be better, happier, stronger, whatever, because of medication is an adulteration. And I'm not even talking from a Maha perspective. I'm just from a physician perspective. That's a mistake. Maha's obviously taken that to kind of the next level.
Well, I think you really hit on a certain point where the idea is that somehow these drugs are specifically designed with a specific intent for a specific treatment. Now, some are,
right,
but I would just go to say that a lot of these drugs will be, they look at the side effect, and then it is, then they will repurpose that drug for the side effect that is caused. A lot of drugs are that way. And if you take a look at the toll, Viagra, which I'm a big supporter of. But if you look at the toll on the human...
You're making the case that we should be using drugs for side effects if it involves an erection. Okay, got it, Rob.
If it involves, if it can help me, if it can help me in any way, I'll take anything. But here's what we have. We have the American population now, 70%. Because we're 4.2% of the world population. And a staggering statistic that Robert Kennedy Jr. told me was 70% of all prescription drugs made in the world are consumed by that 4.2% of the world population, the United States of America, Americans. So we are being overdrugged. And now at least, again, we have to ask questions. And I know that you are, and I am a supporter for temporary use of depression drugs because it can, and for people who are chronically depressed and people who can't seem to get out of it, I think, like all drugs, there can be a good usage for it. And I don't claim to be a physician, so who am I to say? But however, long-term SSRI drugs and what can happen to their brain and this staggering amount of, speaking of Viagra, the sexual dysfunction from these drugs,
phenomenal,
is something that
people don't
is
talk
not
about
really
it.
talked about.
Yep.
70% of people who go on the SSRI drugs will have some form of sexual dysfunction, including for women.
Well, Rob. Yes. But Rob, what I think a lot of people are finally aware of that. I got in trouble for doing a campaign about that that Wellbutrin paid for to have me go out and campaign about raising awareness of the side effect of SSRIs. Here's the part that people don't tell you. Somewhere around 20% get permanent sexual dysfunction. Permanent.
I know. I was just, honestly, that is the thing that hurts because it's not fixable. So for some women, they will literally have a no feeling in their genitals. And that is
exactly.
I mean, 20% is staggering when we look at the statistics, and we don't have the exact statistics of the uptake.
Yes, hopefully it's not that high. Hopefully it's not that high. I hope it's not that high, but I've heard those numbers.
But 15 to 20% of the American population, let's just go to 15% of the American population.
Yeah.
So you're talking in the tens of millions of people. So this is not some small amount of people that are happening. So I think
wonder why the birth rate is down.
Yes, the birth rate is down, and I thought like Elon Musk, where I didn't know what he was talking about with this population collapse, but I do think it's real, and I think that's one of the reasons the United States has been able to maintain its economic advantage over its European and Asian counterparts was a controlled immigration for workers, not just blanketly open borders. And that was really due to, because we're not having enough babies here. And so I do think that, we have to do something. And the attack on Robert Kennedy, I think, it's an easy attack because he really is going after the power centers. And you could really look to a concerted financial investment from the pharmaceutical industries to take down Robert Kennedy. I just don't think that he's going to be able to do it. I don't think that the pharmaceutical industries are going to be able to do it because no one can argue about the food pyramid anymore. That if you follow the food pyramid from the FDA recommendation, you are going to get fat. You are going to you're going to need knee surgery because you can't support that weight. You're going to have diabetes, and you're going to eventually, because of all the foods that turn into sugar very quickly, you're going to develop some sort of dementia. So what I do think needs to happen is I really feel like we are on a cliff, and most people don't realize that. But people like yourself and I who have a real interest in this, we realize that the expenses and what's happening to the American population as we're continuing to become an older population, we are not going to be able to afford the amount of of Americans that are disabled, that have dementia, and for people who say that autism is just, well, the diagnosis is better. I say this to them. Okay, well, where have you been hiding all the old autistic people? This is a new phenomenon.
That's right.
And we really need to, we will, by the middle of the 2030s, we'll have so many of these starting to be older autistic people that will have to be completely cared for. And God bless the people who are on the spectrum and the parents who do so much and do so much work. And that's why I got involved, as you know, Dr. Drew, because all the parents of vaccine-injured children, all they want is one thing, is a prayer so that this heartache that they suffered doesn't happen to other families. And my heart goes out to them, and they have my lifelong support. And for people like you and Susan, your lovely wife, who have opened up your hearts to understand this and to do things outside of your comfort level because you knew it was right. I have my undying support for you, and I really appreciate your dedication to America's health.
Well, I'm sort of, I blow in the wind a little bit. I'm a moderate, but I'm open-minded. I have rational uncertitude.
Yes, we have to attack our certainties. We have to attack our certainties.
Certainty is irrational. Certainty is irrational.
And debate is essential to find. Sometimes we're going to get the best ideas, but if we silence the bad ones, sometimes the bad ones will open up our mind to hear the good ones. Yeah. And we get to good ideas. And we say that in our comedy writing meetings all the time, we say, okay, here's a bad idea. And a lot of times we end up using that one. So let's continue the debate. Let's continue the scientific discovery through asking questions that are uncomfortable. And I think people are moving forward because, as Robert Kennedy said the other day in a very uncomfortable way, talking about SSRI drugs and saying, we had these guns when we were a kid. And as a matter of fact, not, insignificantly fewer, but we are having these mass shootings, and we should be allowed to ask, is there a connection? And I think that needs to.
Where's it coming from?
These are the
absolutely.
Yeah, let's keep asking questions in a respectful way for all Americans. So we're not attacking people, but we to defend the medical industrial complex just because it is moneyed. We have to also know that they're paying for all these senators that are attacking Robert Kennedy, and they're paying for 85% of all commercials in a non-election year is pharma paid. So we have to ask, are we going to continue to go down this road where our government officials, state and federal, where our medical boards, where our the FDA and CDC is, and the revolving door? So Robert Kennedy is a stopgap, and I just hope he gets a chance to really do it. And it's going to take people, parents stepping up, asking questions, and continuing to ask questions so we can make it happen.
So here's what I want to do. First of all, you mentioned asking questions and keeping an open mind. What flashed in my head was Galileo walking out of his third condemnation by the Spanish Inquisition, who said under his breath, in defense of the heliocentric view of the Earth around the sun, he said, and yet it moves. So in spite of whatever anybody thinks, you know what I'm saying? If you know something, you keep defending it, keep thinking about it, and yet it moves. The Earth around the sun is what he was talking about. So we've got dates for you coming up. Are you on tour right now? You just came in here to buy lunch at Erewhon to support our local economy. Is that what you're doing here, or are you? There's your dates.
I'm driving in a car so that I can't. So I don't have an actual location. So when I'm in Los Angeles, I have to be in a vehicle driving around. I sleep in it. I eat in it. I go to Erewhon. I stop, but I keep moving. So I don't have to pay state taxes here. But no, I love the state of California. I love the awakening that's happening here. And hopefully, the people get the kind of government they deserve. But I think the people deserve better. But I'm on tour, and Adam Sandler is having me is at a lot of his shows, which it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Adam Sandler.
Oh, and how fun.
And I'm on tour. You can go to robschneider.com. And I look forward to coming in and next time I'm in town. But thank you for having these conversations because I really appreciate them. And I I'm just glad that I'm going to say people are waking up and they're not as hypnotized, and asking questions is what this is all about.
Right.
And that you are in control of your health.
It has been a mass hypnosis. It has been a mass hypnosis. Get this book. This book is, wait, put it back there. Get me off the screen, put the book up. Your book, You Can Do It, is so good. It is so,
Thank you.
my God. There's so much honest material in there about your mom and your upbringing. It's just, please, I love that book. So people should, if you like Rob, you'll like his book. I guarantee it.
Real Rob.
So,
they got to watch Real Rob.
Yeah, and then Real Rob.
That's how you get to know Rob.
We're going to bring Real Rob back. We're going to bring it.
Yes, we're going to do
the comedy.
We're going to do season 3 finally.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do a cameo. I'm dying to do a cameo.
You're going to be in
some sort of cameo.
You
Let me
are
play a
going to be in
doctor or
it.
something stupid. 100%. I'm
Absolutely.
going to hold you to that, my friend.
You got it.
So, Caleb, the comedy with Jamie Lissow, who is his sort of co-star on the series, he's his assistant. He was on Gutfeld, and I called Rob. I go, I saw him twice. The second time I called Rob, I go, Rob, your buddy that plays the assistant, he's killing it on Gutfeld. And he goes, tell him yourself. He was sitting right next to him, and you handed the phone to Jamie.
I gotta say, to be fully honest, I did not understand the appeal of Rob Schneider until I was like, he was on the show, and then I finally went down like, I'm gonna watch Real Rob. I watched it and I get it now. That makes it, everyone who wants to be a fan of Rob Schneider needs to go watch Real Rob. It's an introduction to who you are. I loved it.
It's on Netflix. And by the way, the not understanding the lack of appeal. Also, my wife is in that same category.
You can tell that from the show too, because she's actually in the show.
Yeah. Well, God bless you. Thank you, Drew. And I'll come. My love.
All right, man. Come back soon. Susan's here. She hears your love. We're all good. Send it to Tracy
give him
as
a
well.
love, Susan.
And
thank you.
We'll see you when you're in town. All right, man. Take care.
Okay, will do. Love you, Drew. Talk to you now.
Thank you, buddy. So, Caleb, come back up here with me on
I'm
the
here.
screen, if you don't mind. Have I told the story about Real Rob and his wife on the show?
Maybe. I think in the background, I think I've heard you say something about whenever you met them. Or no, tell the story. Tell the story.
So the story is, I was watching that show and we were like, oh my God, this is so good. And we watched a few episodes and I go, but who casted that wife? It's just overcasting. No one's going to believe that Rob would be married to a woman like that. And so I'm looking through the credits at the end, and it says the casting director, Patricio Schneider. I went, oh my God, his wife casted that woman as the wife in the show. And the comedy is, that is his wife. That's
his
in the
real
show.
wife. It adds a whole new dimension to the show. It's such a perfect, the way they play off of each other. Like, I got it. I did not understand it. And then I watched that show. I'm like, I get it now. This is why people love Rob.
And so funny.
And two things about that. And so I give him shit about that all the time, and he laughs. He thinks it's a great joke because he gets it too. But number two, that's how they are. They are a lot like that. There's all these cultural things, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. And
I loved it.
So yeah, it's good.
I want to say happy birthday to Jep767 on Rumble.
Oh, happy birthday. So what is some smash? What is smash? I don't know what that is, but all right.
Jehep.
So is what?
It's like Jahan, Jehep.
So is Dr. McCullough around? Is he available for me?
I think we're doing.
Or we're going to do a break?
Not here yet, but he should be here in a minute.
Oh, Chris.
No,
okay.
we're doing
You-
it. At
At the beginning of the show, you did it in the other order.
It's
No, we
Dr.
switched it
McCullough
to-
is
Okay.
next, and then Christina is after that. So
Okay,
right after,
but
let's
at
do
the
the
top,
break.
you said she was second. That's
All right, so we'll take a little break now. Again, thank you to the people that support the show. They've really made this operation go, and so I hope you will support them.
They're good products.
and we are so thankful that these are products we literally use every day. We stand behind them. They enhance our health, my family's health, and they can do so for you. So pay attention. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue. And we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid, it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. Weight loss and gum loss, the wellness company's got you covered with new products. Drop. It's for aggressive appetite control. It comes in easy-to-use liquid drops. No prescription, no painful shot. It is an oral peptide called retatrutide. It actually mimics the way the body naturally loses weight, and it is designed to support faster, more focused weight loss when combined with healthy eating and exercise. And Smile, it's a breakthrough fluoride-free peptide toothpaste. It gently whitens and reverses gum loss, actually rebuilding tissue at its source with a proprietary blend of peptides, remineralizers, and soothing botanicals. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for more information on Drop and Smile, and check out another new and innovative solution for hair loss called Roots while you're there. That's drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off. What's so special about Paleo Valley's grass-fed and finished bone broth and superfood bars? Well, everything. All are delicious, high in nutrients, low in calories, and contain nothing artificial. Co-founder Autumn Smith on what goes into every superfood bar.
So we have bone broth protein powder, and then we've added other superfoods, cashew butter, we have spirulina in there, acerola, broccoli powder, kale, blueberries. And so it really is kind of just an infusion of superfoods with every bite.
And then there's the extraordinary bone broth protein made with an ancestral approach that boosts our collagen intake.
Collagen is something that's gone by the wayside in our modern diet because we don't eat nose to tail anymore, but it was something we ate a lot of, and it has so many benefits. So if you have sagging skin, joint pain, gut issues, your decreased bone mineral density, slow to heal your wounds, slow recovery, these are all things that collagen can dramatically improve. If we're not giving our body the building blocks to produce it, we just age more rapidly. It also improves sleep, improves blood sugar control. So it's essentially like the Swiss Army knife of healthy aging.
Like I said, Paleo Valley's bone broth is something special. Make Paleo Valley part of your longevity regimen. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 20% off when you subscribe and 15% off your first order. That is drdrew.com/Paleo Valley.
Dr. Drew said the best way to quit drinking is by going cold turkey, and he's a doctor, so why would you question doctors?
Dr. Drew called me unfixable.
And for the Paleo Valley, for a limited time, get that pumpkin spice variety. It's October is upon us nearly, and it is, in fact, Halloween season. These are in high demand, delicious, and flying out the door. So
Yummy.
it's just in time.
I love pumpkin spice.
I also love the superfood bars. They are just exceptionally good. They're based in the bone broth, the grass-fed and finished beef bone broth, and then they add a series of other high-density nutrients to it. And of course, Autumn is thinking about everything. Okay, all right. So, Susan wants me to talk about the Ultimate Spike Detox. We're going to talk to the inventor of this protocol, Dr. Peter McCullough, who is with us now. Dr. McCullough, thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. I get so hungry watching your warm-ups there, the bone broth and the grass-fed beef. And I learned so much.
It's really good.
Yeah, Drew, I learned so much. We recently on my show, we had Jenny McCarthy, and she spilled the beans about why Susan has become so beautiful in recent years. She's using Jenny's product line.
I am.
She not only that, Susan is like, to say that she's a discriminating consumer does not get to the.
I was a cosmetologist.
Yeah,
okay?
and when Jenny sent some product and she's like, "This is out," she was like raving about it.
It really
and so
is.
I told Jenny, like, this is no fooling. I mean, she is like, she has very high standards. So Jenny's stuff is good. And I apologize to Jenny McCarthy, much as I did to Naomi Wolf and others who I had been a little dismissive of their vaccine positions. I'm not totally in with everything, but they deserve their day in the sun, and they deserve their questions to be answered. There's Jenny's website. But tell people, I don't know if, I guess you were probably watching the Ron Johnson Senate hearing today, as was I. There was a lot to learn. If they taped it, I suggest people go back and listen to it. What did you take away from that?
Boy, just a stunning development. What had happened, and we're all connected. And I used to be a program director at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. This is a long time ago. But one of our infectious disease doctors, actually at 2 hospitals, Beaumont and Henry Ford, is Marcus Zervos. He's actually an author on the first McCullough protocol paper for early treatment. Zervos conducted a study of vaccinated versus unvaccinated children in the Henry Ford health system that spanned nearly 2 decades. And Henry Ford Health System, they know exactly who's in the system. They verified the vaccine records with the state of Michigan, so we know who is vaccinated, who is not. And they ended up with a sample size of 2,000 children who took no childhood vaccines, 16,000 who did take the vaccines, and then they compared the outcomes. And it was astonishing. What happened was, Del Bigtree and Aaron Siri, they supported Zervos in doing this. Zervos had the answer in 2020 and refused to publish it and said, this is just going to be too damaging to to this whole vaccine enterprise. And he was worried about his own professional situation. So finally, Senator Ron Johnson forced it. And in the deliberations, Richard Blumenthal said, why is this coming out now? And Johnson said, I'm forcing it to come out now. And so now the results are in from the Henry Ford birth cohort study. Nick Holscher.
Peter, before you read them, and they're rather dramatic, but it was one of the interesting things, aside from the results from this study, that caught my attention amongst many things in this hearing. But one of the first thing that jumped out at me was, oh my God, our peers don't understand how adulterated the editorial process is for publication. They don't know. I mean, just look no further than Vivek Medicki, I can never pronounce her name, who published 2 articles on sort of lot safety, and the certain lots in the Pfizer vaccine were more problematic than others. It took her 3 years to get that published, and even then in a peripheral journal, and then of course destroyed for daring to publish it. They don't understand the adulteration that has gone on here, and to me it makes perfect sense. And the fact that Ron Johnson pushed it, it'll be interesting to see what happens to your peers over there at that institution.
Well, let me say just before we get into this, this adulteration now has become deeply embedded in artificial intelligence. This is very important. So young people now are going to artificial intelligence for answers. I recently did this on artificial intelligence, and I said, how many manuscripts conclude that the benefits of COVID-19 vaccines outweigh the risks? The answer was 380. Then I flipped it around. I said, well, how many manuscripts conclude that the risks outweigh the benefits? And I know those papers exist, just like they do. Artificial intelligence came up with 0. 380 to 0. Well, listen, whether it's statins or back surgery or anything else, there's always a balance. There's some for, some against. When it's 380 to 0, that tells you that there's bias and corruption infused now into this process.
Yes. One of the things I've always admired about you, you are a deep reader of the medical literature. You are profoundly connected to all that is published. And I'm sure you've been that way your whole career. So you and I both know it's so dramatically contrary to the basic flavor of medical research, which is always kind of, this looks good, this is informative, this is not informative, this is sort of going, it's always a back and forth, and you kind of move towards a consensus over time. It's why you don't get excited about any given study, but now this is just a total mess. So give us the data from this vaccine study.
Okay, so Henry Ford birth cohort study, 16,000 vaccinated kids, routine childhood vaccine schedule, 2,000 unvaccinated. It goes back it ran from 2000, I believe, to 2016. The rate over time that accumulated of any chronic disease in the children was 17% for the unvaccinated group and 57% for the vaccinated. Now that goes along with the claim that we're heading towards over 70% of people with chronic diseases. And the relative risks of taking the vaccines for the children, 4.29 for asthma, 3.2 for atopic dermatitis, 5.9 for autoimmune diseases, 5.53 for neurodevelopmental disorders, and the list goes on. And it's interestingly about the healthiness of the unvaccinated. So I think this is important to get out. So, the unvaccinated kids may have special parents, or, they may be particularly robust kids, but, and they had a lot of cases of ADHD. You'll be interested in this. If the kids were completely unvaccinated, zero ADHD in the unvaccinated kids, 268 cases in the vaccinated. For tics, these motor disorders, zero in the unvaccinated, and obviously many more in the vaccinated. So this is not a randomized trial. It was pointed out by Jake Scott, the Stanford minority witness today, that there may have been ascertainment bias, that the vaccinated kids had more clinic visits. But, Ron Johnson pointed out, wait a minute, if the kids are healthy, they're not going to have as many clinic visits. And so there were sensitivity analyses done for the number of clinic visits, what have you, and the data were robust. I'll tell you as an epidemiologist, anything that's more than a 4-fold increased risk in a non-randomized study, pay attention to that. And we had more than 4-fold risks for many of these conditions among children who were getting the routine childhood vaccines, which the doctors thought they were doing the right things, and so did the parents.
Yeah, I thought Dr. Scott did a nice job today in the as you say, the minority defense testimony. He took issue with the zero ADHD cases in the unvaccinated group, as somehow to him that seemed inconceivable. That's how common ADHD is. Speaking of overdiagnosing, but so we'll see how those things fall. And the other thing, he had no idea about so many things that Ron Johnson pointed out to him about the vaccine, the adverse event monitoring systems and the way these things are reported. He just didn't know anything about it, and that's, to me, that is again this big problem we have with people are blind to a certain amount of data because of the politics.
Yeah, it's true. And, they started out by reading, I don't know if you saw Senator Jesse Moreno from Ohio. He started reading out all of Jake Scott's tweets and, asking if it's biased or not biased. And, I don't know. I'm glad I don't really do political tweets, but I'm glad I don't have any of those out there that people would read. I just think that doctors need to carry themselves at a certain level. And all of this is really congealing. I know you tweeted on this with the Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo, announcing that they should go with no vaccine mandates or requirements for school, military, or employment.
Yep. And like many countries and most communist countries, they have no such mandates. And people that become outraged and begin to insist that the government somehow the federal government be responsible for our bodily integrity and healthcare, that is the most bizarre. How did the left end up there? It's just so odd to me. But here we are. I remember I used to have to fight the right on various things where they were constantly, thought they knew what was better or right or how people should live their lives. Now they've gone more towards freedom, and the left has decided the government is only and always right about you and your healthcare and how you manage your body, which is just an astonishing change. And the fact is, 88 countries have no such mandate, including the Scandinavian countries, most EU countries, Japan. China doesn't have a mandate. China doesn't. A communist country has no mandate to go to school. And so, yes, we need to educate about vaccines. We need doctors well prepared to talk to patients about their risk reward. And the doctor and the patients decide what they're going to do.
Well, I thought your tweet was one of the best ones of the day. I was quick to retweet it. 88 countries, I had no idea. And you probably saw FDA Commissioner Marty Makary say, I don't think the hepatitis B vaccine for a healthy child is appropriate on the first day of life. That's our FDA commissioner. So I think we're going to end up seeing some reorganization, probably some re-stratification of the childhood vaccine schedules. In our book, Dr. Drew, you'll be amazed. In our book, we made the New York Times bestseller list, Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. Yeah, but we have reality is important, and we fairly point out the vaccines have accounted for case count drops in measles and chickenpox and other illnesses. So there is a reality to the vaccines, for sure. But I think where we're heading is more appropriate timing of vaccines, some risk stratification. And remember, vaccines are much safer when they're given singly as opposed to in combinations, and much safer when they're given later in life, outside of this critical window. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, so some of the HPV can be done later. The hepatitis B can be done later. Even the things from the Haemophilus and meningococcal, these are all later vaccines. So anyway, let's get off that for a second.
Do you think that HPV is still going to be as bad as it was when our kids were younger?
You mean the frequency of it?
Yeah, like is it going to still? Because it seemed like there was a lot of it when our kids were there.
People aren't having sex anymore, so that will drop it. Number one, and number two, the use of the vaccine is going to drop. This 6 to 8, or 6 to 9, or 6 to 12 different variants that are covered by the vaccines. But it's turning out the vaccines are not quite as efficacious as they
Susan,
thought it was.
Dr. Do you know, Susan, Dr. Drew, do you know what the big stress test is on the HPV vaccine? The big stress test is actually gay and bisexual men. And and all the different HPV outcomes in that group. And that's where the vaccine, you would really want it to be used because of the frequency of contact, the transmissibility. And
what kind of cancer do they get?
They get anal cancer.
Your question is valid. They get anal cancer. They get head and neck cancer.
Oh yeah,
and so that's the problem.
But here's my point: the vaccine, in reducing those outcomes, is far less impactful than in the heterosexual, less sexually active population. It's just
I got to look a little more at that, but you would want. I don't think they're getting the vaccine at the same rate either, but I don't know, because that's where you really, really want people to be vaccinated, because the risk reward kind of is there for that population.
But no, there are programs in big cities that have very, very assertive vaccine programs, and they have surveillance programs, and these men are participating in these programs. And I've covered this on Focal Point Substack. The vaccine is not as effective, I think, partially because there now are so many different strains of HPV. Honestly, HPV is kind of overwhelming the vaccine. Yeah,
that makes sense to me. So let's switch topic for our last few minutes we have together. Let's talk about. Oh wait, Caleb wants to ask one more thing about Trump. Trump is against the end of vaccine mandates. Is that true, Caleb? Was he clear about that?
Yeah, he was. He was pretty clear in an interview. He was pretty clear, and he said that he says you have vaccines that work. They pure and simple work. They're not controversial at all, and I think those vaccines should be used. Otherwise, some people are going to catch it, and they're going to endanger other people. He said this after Dr. Joseph Ladapo.
Caleb, yes. The two of us doctors sitting here completely agree with that. That has nothing to do with mandates. That's a completely separate topic from mandates.
He may have gotten bad information from someone, because that's what he was saying on the interview.
Yeah, people are confusing recommending a vaccine on the CDC schedule with mandates, with availability of a vaccine. These are all three different topics.
Right. I think my 2 cents is that people should not be fearful about availability of vaccines. There's nothing in
at all. Nothing's going to get in the way of that. No way.
Remember, before Kennedy was even confirmed, people were saying that he's going to take away people's vaccines. That hasn't happened at all. It's not going to happen. I think what we're agreeing on is that we can get into a doctor-patient relationship, a risk-benefit discussion, and something that's more tailored to in joint decision-making with the family and the child and what the future outcomes. Yeah.
There is a little wrinkle that the senators made a meal out of, which is that because of the scam that insurance companies are, they might use the lack of explicit recommendation by the CDC as a reason to not cover a given vaccine, like the COVID vaccine if a child wants it. The reality is, Peter, I think in my world, if I want to give a vaccine, I will go after the insurance company to get the payment if it's indicated, and you can usually get it.
Well, remember, for children, the government steps in and provides the vaccine anyway for uninsured or underinsured children anyway. So the government backstops vaccines. So I don't want any parents listening to this thinking their kids won't have access to vaccines. They'll have it.
There you go. All right, let's talk about long COVID, long vax. I've got the ultimate spike detox in my hand here. Your understanding of this has continued to, has continued to evolve. Help people understand. There's still many people out there struggling with this that don't understand that there are ways to approach it. There's a lot of different ideas out there, but you've been really dedicating your day in, day out life to understanding this thing and coming up with protocols that work. What is the spectrum of what you're seeing, and what are you doing in response to it?
Right. So the virus leaves with the infection the tip of the spike protein in the human body. Bruce Patterson in CellDX has shown it's in there at least 1.5 years or longer. The spike protein causes damage to the body. It causes long COVID symptoms, causes blood clots. Dr. Drew, I had a patient today, a young man, 23, paramedic. He got COVID. He didn't take the vaccine, just COVID, blood clot in the arm. He had to have extraction, first rib removal, thoracic outlet problems. His arm is not the same. It's not the same.
Happened to a patient of mine. Patient of mine got severe pulmonary embolia and pulmonary infarctions. And it's funny, here's the comedy, I didn't tell Susan this. I was having a little chest pain last night, and I thought, I got to think about PE now every time I get a little chest pain, because I never used to think about that.
But here's the thing. So we had COVID, but we measure the antibodies to the spike protein. This is very important. So the antibodies are an indirect proxy of how much spike protein is in the body. His were markedly elevated. You can order it yourself on LabCorp. Go to LabCorp, Labs on Demand, click over to infectious diseases, click on COVID antibody, pay $69 and get your own test, because some doctors are refusing to get it. There's multiple studies showing the test is prognostic. If it's less than 1,000 units per ml, very low risk. Fits with my clinical experience. Over 5,000 on that number, we're starting to see spike protein in the bloodstream. His was, I think, well over 10,000. That's where we use Ultimate Spike Detox, nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin in combination. This is an over-the-counter supplement, but in high dose to clear spike protein from the blood. Now, he was on a blood thinner, Eliquis, for about 8 months, the Ultimate Spike Detox, in addition, where we watch for risks of bleeding, and now he's much better, his symptoms are much better, and he's on the road to recovery if he's off his blood thinner.
So this is not a commercial for the wellness company. Both you and I are on the board, the medical board there, but there's spike support versus Ultimate Spike Detox. I've actually myself not been clear, who should be taking what, and then the amount. So can you help us with that?
And when?
Well, the when is the who.
Right. So Spike Support was our first product, and Spike Support at 2 capsules gives a total of 2,000 fibrinolytic units of nattokinase. Spike Support is good for people who've been exposed. Maybe they're concerned about shedding. They don't really have any symptoms. It's generally healthy. It helps prevent recurrent SARS-CoV-2 infection anyway. It's anti-atherosclerotic. Anti-diabetic. Actually, the curcumin is anti-cancer. So it's a good, healthy supplement. The Ultimate Spike Detox is for patients like mine and yours, people deep into long COVID or vaccine injury syndromes, very high antibodies against the spike protein. 2 capsules twice a day of this gives 8,000 units of nattokinase. And many times under my observation, I advanced to 4 capsules twice a day. That's 16,000 units of nattokinase a day. That's big time enzymatic exposure to the body. Jordan Vaughn, who's testified in the Senate, runs the largest vaccine blood clot center in the United States. Out of the box, he's starting with 16,000 units a day.
But the recommended is to start with, if you're just somebody who's worried that you have some sort of post-vax, post-COVID thing, it's 2 twice a day, right?
Yeah, 2 twice a day. So the serving size is 4 capsules.
You said on
here
an
the
empty
bottom.
stomach.
Yeah, empty stomach.
Did you say on an empty stomach?
Yeah, it must be, because the enzymes won't get absorbed. You know, enzymes are not well absorbed. They don't survive the GI tract as well because they're proteins. So it's got to be empty stomach. So when you're hungry is a good time to take them. If you get up at night to, let's say, use the restroom, that's a good time. The stomach's empty. Take it then. Get up first thing in the morning. Last thing you want to do is take it with meals. It will literally deactivate everything. It doesn't work at all.
Somebody on the restream here is saying it took the spike, it didn't reduce any spike. I'm not quite sure. Of course, I don't know any details that this person is giving us, but if somebody should not have any symptom relief, what's the next line of defense for patients that are frustrated?
Well, people who have high antibodies not getting better now, there's about 5 studies. I always ask them this, Dr. Drew, if they have any craniofacial syndrome, lancinating pain, headaches, if they have skin rash, persistent pulmonary symptoms, or night sweats. Night sweats is very important. They probably have a SARS-CoV-2 reservoir. The virus can actually set up shop in the body for months. In fact, there's an NIH study suggesting the virus is in the body alive and replicating even up to a year afterwards. So in that case,
can't the vaccine do the same thing with the pathogenic protein?
Yeah, well, the vaccine is producing spike protein, but this idea of, the spike protein, we can get ahead of it with spike detox. When we're not making any progress, I'm worried about the virus itself. And so
I see.
Yeah, my go-to approach is I put them on 90 days of ivermectin.
Oh, interesting. And I know Patterson and his group is using Moravirac, and they're using a statin, believe it or not.
Right. I've tried that.
Go ahead.
I've tried it, and that's trying to harness the body's own immune system to clear spike protein. I haven't found it works. It simply doesn't work. And there are some toxicities to that. I think you're better off with the spike detox, which clearly drops the enzymes. That's been shown over and over again. That means it's dropping spike protein. And then ivermectin, which we have enough experience. Ivermectin blocks the spike protein. It blocks replication of SARS-CoV-2, and it influences some of the toll-like receptors on the surface favorably. A man your size, Dr. Drew, probably would take about 36 milligrams, maybe 48 milligrams a day for 90 days.
I just think this is so fascinating. I mean, you were the first to alert me about so many of the long pathogenic processes around the clotting system, and it makes perfect sense to me that would be. This thing causes. I talked to Ryan Cole about this years ago. I just said, it was probably in 2021. I said, I think this thing is affecting an endothelial reaction somehow and causing an endotheliitis, and that's activating the clotting system. And I think that we just have continued evidence of this. It's a nasty, nasty, nasty thing. It certainly feels like a bioweapon the way it's getting us. Any thoughts on its effect on the natural killer cells? I know Patrick Soon-Shiong is very focused on that he thinks that we're going to see that with the uptick in cancer we're seeing is directly resulted to these T-cell scavengers that are responsible for getting early cancers out of our system, not functioning efficiently.
Spike protein is immunosuppressive. This is very important, whether you've had COVID or have had the vaccine or both. There's many studies showing our immune system is suppressed. The overall white blood cell count has been down. Normally with a viral infection, mononuclear cells, monocytes are up. They're actually down. Several studies show that modeling the spike protein impairs tumor suppressor systems, P53 and BRCA, and the natural killer cells don't have their anti-neoplastic effect of what they should. And for that reason, we may be losing immune surveillance on cancer. And we don't know. I had a patient yesterday, a young man, he has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. He takes the vaccines, and he gets COVID. And then afterwards, he gets myocarditis. That could have been anticipated because he has an abnormal genetic heart to begin with. Then he gets a testicular cancer. And then he develops hypothyroidism. Like these three things, and he's 23 years old. He's like, Dr. McCullough, what's happening?
Indeed, what's happening, and those of us that worked through the AIDS pandemic, this is not as dramatic as that effect on the immune system, but it does have echoes of that experience here and there, and that worries me greatly. Dr. McCullough, what's on your radar now? What are you worried about? What are you working on? Where should we look for you?
Well, follow me everywhere on social media. Focal Points. We continue to get out the critical information. We're working through, obviously, the COVID vaccines, the childhood vaccines, but we have a great interest in this emerging literature on microplastics, for instance, and whether the body really is affected by these, the interface between the GI tract and microplastics. I'm personally interested in neurodegenerative diseases. Dr. Drew, both my parents, Alzheimer's disease. What can I do to change my fate in a few years? I think all of us, now is the time to take a personal interest in our health, do our own research, follow the Dr. Drew Show and all the great guests that you have, because, here you get unbiased information. We have intelligent conversations. We cite the evidence, and we're taking care of patients. We're trying to do the best we can.
Yep. We try. Indeed, we do. I'll send you the literature on fatty 15, which is something that they were able to prevent Alzheimer's in dolphins, which is one of our close relatives. And it's this one supplement prevents essentially lipid bilayer oxidation happens as we age, particularly in neural tissue, and this tends to reduce that. I'll send you that data. So it's something to think about. All right, my friend, we'll see you again soon. Thank you for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that is Dr. Peter McCullough. Let me give you more particulars on where you can find him. We're going to have Christina Bobb in here in just a second. He said, follow me everywhere, but I want to tell you where you can follow him. Oh, Caleb, do I not have his stuff? I don't see it on here.
What?
His X and everything else. There it is. P_McCullough MD. P_McCullough MD. CULLOUGH. And Christina, who I'm about to talk to, is Christina_Bobb, and that is BOBB. Rob Schneider's everywhere. He's truly everywhere. You can just follow him wherever. One more look, if I've got other stuff, PeterMcCulloughMD.com and the focalpoints.com and twc.health. And before I bring Christina in here, now this is my commercial. I was going to say that we push the wellness kits and stuff. We've been sort of exposing you to some of the other wellness products. They've got really great supplements. They have a longevity supplement too that is excellent. They have a peak metabolism. These are all very, very high quality supplements. What's in it?
What's in the peak metabolism?
It is, you're going to have to get me a magnifying glass. I remember looking at it in relation to burn, and it was very similar to the V-Shred burn. It's essentially ways of helping, stabilize glucose. My glasses aren't strong enough for me to read it, but I had read it once, and I thought, this is a good product. I should take it. Yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot.
Sorry, honey. No, but it's good. It helps you.
No, I'm a big fan of those kinds of products. They tend to, because they're stabilizing blood sugar and decreasing insulin resistance and insulin spiking, they give you a little energy. They interfere with hunger mechanisms.
And then the drop, which we don't have there.
Drop very specifically interferes
weight
with that.
loss.
Yeah. That's a very specific thing.
Yeah,
I took that. I tried it. Company. It worked for me. I had a little bit of, I felt a little hot at night. And that was it. That was the only side effect I had from that one.
Have you lost any weight?
Yeah, no, it really affects appetite for sure. All right, let's bring Christina in here. Her new book, let me get it for you. I've got so much material because we have so many different guests here. It is Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. This should be very interesting. You can get it at Amazon. And as I said, Christina is on X as well, Christina_Bobb, BOBB. Christina, thank you for coming here. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dr. Drew. I'm excited to be with you today.
So Lawfare, I mean, the term is tossed around a lot. But I have to tell you, just as a non-legal person, as a citizen, the kind of stuff you see going on just looks so scary and I made me think about things like, why Martha Stewart went to jail. I mean, I had dinner with her one time. She's a lovely person. And she at the time told me, she goes, I set up this stock option plan because my employers are so great and I wanted them to participate in the richness of this company. Yeah. And then she gets nailed because she forgets something in an interview with the federal DOJ. And I thought, oh yeah, this is like medical malpractice. You can always find something to nail people on. And that is not the purpose of our legal system.
No, I completely agree with you. I don't know if you can see it here. I have my mugshot here. I am currently a criminal defendant as we're having this conversation. I'm up until today, I was one of about 60. Now I'm about one of 40, 45 people that are still embroiled in criminal cases from 2020. I don't know if you saw the news today, but Michigan finally dismissed the cases against the Michigan electors, Trump electors in Michigan just today. We're all still fighting it, still going on, but you're right. It's really scary. It's a huge abuse of the system. And yeah, there's a lot to unpack with it.
What happened to you? What is your case?
So I was a reporter. The allegation was that I was a Trump.
You're doing, by the way, full Trump, and your mugshot. I know you're giving your best Trump. Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's actually what the president said too. I sent it to him afterwards, after it happened, and he goes, "Oh, you made my face." So, I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's what happened. But so at the time of the 2020 election, I was a reporter. Also, I'm an attorney by trade and was kind of, I stumbled into journalism and I had just started doing that. And I volunteered for Rudy Giuliani. I saw how President Trump's legal team really kind of left him high and dry right after the 2020 election. He wanted to challenge some of the states. And so I reached out. I had been a journalist and I had interviewed Rudy Giuliani. So I reached out and I said, hey, if I'm happy to volunteer. I'm an attorney by trade. If you need help with anything, let me know. So I volunteered to help Rudy a little bit after the 2020 election. But I was working as a journalist and I had nothing to do with the alternate electors case. The alternate electors, dubbed the fake electors by the mainstream media, they are not fake electors. They are actual Trump electors. That was an effort by Trump's legal team to preserve his right to have his votes cast, his electoral votes cast, should he prevail on these legal challenges. Because the law requires that the electors cast their vote on December 14th, but President Trump was still challenging the results in some of the states. So the electors had to basically create a ballot on December 14th that could be cast in the future should he be successful in his litigation. And it's been done before. John F. Kennedy did that in 1960 with Richard Nixon in Hawaii, and he ended up using that alternate slate of electors. So there's legal historic precedent for it. It's actually required by law. And there was a plan to try to incriminate everybody who challenged that election. So I didn't actually have anything to do with it. I wasn't even reporting on it, but because I was close to Rudy, I kind of got roped into it. So my indictment and the indictment for all of my co-defendants was thrown out as a violation of our constitutional rights. The case is still open, unfortunately. The judge hasn't gone far enough to actually dismiss the case. But we're all just kind of languishing, racking up legal fees, waiting for it to get dismissed because the indictment has been thrown out.
Are you still in journalism or are you thinking about going back into law?
I work at Judicial Watch now. So I'm an attorney. I'm back in litigation, focusing on exposing government corruption. But I love writing. I'll probably dabble in journalism forever.
Do you have communication with the current Department of Justice?
I do. Yeah. I mean, when I worked for President Trump from 2022 to 2024, so I know most of the people in the administration now.
It seems like the people I know over there are extraordinary human beings and extraordinary lawyers. And I just think they're just getting started.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to do some really good work.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know Pam Bondi. I think she's fantastic. I know Kash Patel. I think he's great. The concern that I have is not in them or their ability. I think they're fantastic. The concern is there is so much. There's so much to do.
Right.
How do they prioritize it? Who do they kind of delegate some of the responsibilities to? They have a lot to sort through. And not a lot of people that I would trust, and I'm not saying I don't trust, anybody in particular, but just based on the history of the Department of Justice and FBI, I would be hesitant to just trust someone I didn't know to handle some of these cases. So I think their biggest challenge is just figuring out how they can actually use their own agencies and how they can sort through the information to bring about the results that the American people elected Donald Trump to bring about. Yeah, I think they got to get their arms around that.
What would we learn by reading the book?
Well, the truth, for one, the actual story of what happened for the raid, the story that the mainstream media has put out, I don't think even comes close to accurately representing what happened. The whole thing was a sham. It was completely fake. They never had probable cause. I know Kash Patel has come out and said that now. They never had probable cause to get the warrant. They had to go to a conflicted judge who, by his own admission, said that he was unable to be impartial in a Trump case just 6 weeks prior. And then that's where the FBI goes to get the search warrant. I mean, the whole thing was a complete sham. We were completely cooperative. I met with the Department of Justice and the FBI 2 months prior to the raid to say, what do you need? President Trump came to that meeting, told them to their faces, what do you want? Like, you can see whatever you want. Do you want a tour of Mar-a-Lago? We'll give you a tour of Mar-a-Lago. You can see whatever you want. And they saw what they wanted. They said they were satisfied that they, had all of their questions answered. And then the next communication we get is, hey, can you get to Mar-a-Lago? They're raiding the place. What? What do you mean they're raiding the place? There's so much to it. I don't want to, give you a diatribe on it, but the original case was in Washington, D.C. It was here in Washington. At the time, I lived in Florida. I worked in Florida. I met with President Trump in Florida. I met with the Department of Justice and the FBI in Florida. I signed for the documents in Florida. I was the custodian of record in Florida. Everything was in Florida. When I got subpoenaed and when I was required to get interrogated by the Department of Justice and the FBI and come up here and testify before a grand jury, I had to come to Washington, D.C. And it's clear now that they were trying to create some sort of like Hillary Clinton email scandal case to bring in Washington, D.C., but they never had probable cause for it. They could never establish any wrongdoing that rose to the level of getting an indictment. And you know the saying, you can indict a ham sandwich. And they couldn't even get an indictment in Washington, D.C., which is why they had to transfer it to Florida. They never wanted to bring a case against Donald Trump in Florida. I mean, who in their right mind, if you're going to prosecute Donald Trump, would want to do it in Florida? They had to do it because the whole world was staring at him going, why the heck did you raid Mar-a-Lago? And they couldn't get an indictment for it. So they had to switch it to Florida, create some stupid obstruction of justice case, claim that he had classified documents he wasn't entitled to, which was never accurate. He always was in lawful possession of everything he had. So that's the high level.
I find odd. Here's my question. Who are these freaking attorneys that did this? And why aren't they being brought before the bar or something? I mean, why isn't this profession policing itself? You know what I mean? Who were these people? Or why aren't they being publicly shamed?
No, I completely agree. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of looking at the Department of Justice going, this needs to be corrected, because I had to defend my bar license. I did absolutely nothing wrong. I was completely honest with the Department of Justice and the FBI, and I cooperated to the fullest extent that I could. And then I ended up having to defend my bar license. Thank God I kept it, and they found no wrongdoing on my part, but I had to fight for it.
What were the allegations? What did you supposedly do? That was the obstruction of justice thing? You got into that?
I got sucked into that, and because I'm licensed in California, and in California, they don't show you the complaint until they decide to prosecute you. And so I didn't actually get to see the allegations I was defending. They ultimately decided not to prosecute me, so I didn't get to see them. But they were basically claiming that I lied to the Department of Justice or I was somehow unethical, which was never true. And thankfully, they closed it with no wrongdoing. But you're completely right. I mean, on the conservative side, Rudy Giuliani is getting disbarred unfairly. John Eastman, Jeff Clark, Ken Chesborough. I mean, you can run down the litany of conservative conservative attorneys that are getting disbarred. And then you have Department of Justice attorneys who are lying to courts to get a search warrant that they should never have had processed. They didn't have probable cause for it during an election cycle where they're going to chill the political process for the entire nation, and they don't have to account for it. I mean, it's scary. Like you said earlier, what's happening is really scary. And the only way, I would love nothing more than for us all to shake hands and say, can we please move past this? This has been a rough go of it. But until they indicate that they're actually going to stop coming for us, we can't. So someone needs to be held accountable for sure.
And so how do you do that?
Well, there needs to be some finding of wrongdoing, ideally by the Department of Justice. I would love to see Pam Bondi or Kash Patel say, these people knowingly lied to get a search warrant, or, explain who the actual actors are. They're the ones that have all the files. And so they need to come out.
You have somebody, do you have the attention of somebody in the Justice Department?
Oh, I think they're aware. I think this is something that President Trump is concerned about. And they raided his home.
Okay.
And so I think as far as I know.
But as he has said repeatedly, if they can do it to me, they can do it to you. And that's literally how I feel. It feels very scary for citizens.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And when he says they're not after me, they're after you, I'm just in the way. The book describes that, because I was close enough to get what they were. They're trying to come after Americans and come after our freedom. And because I was so close to President Trump, I saw it. I had to face it firsthand. And so the story really depicts what he means by that. And I was on the front lines, but they're coming for everybody else too. And I know you see it in the medical profession, doctors that, had very good reason to prescribe certain things. And, now they have to defend their medical license. And we see that with psychiatrists. And, the whole professional licensing is a very serious, significant issue, because if they can just disbar or, strip you of a medical license, then there's no opposition, and then there's no debate, and then there's no, free society. So
so when you say they're coming for it, who are they and what are they up to?
I would say it's the establishment. In the title, I say the left. So the easy way to describe it is the left, Democrats. They tend to use the justice system to their advantage better than Republicans do. But to be fair, it's not just Democrats. Republicans are guilty of it as well. Maybe not weaponizing the justice system the way that the left has, but being complicit with it. So I would say it's the political class that has gotten comfortable with whatever they're entitled to, the power that they're entitled to, or they believe they're entitled to. And they don't like this movement, this populist movement of people saying, you know what, we're actually in charge of the government. We're going to change things we don't like, and we're going to have people represent us. The people are actually getting involved in a way that they haven't been involved in a long time. And they're trying to stop that. It happens on both sides. It's most obvious on the left right now, but Republicans do it too.
It's interesting. I've been watching a lot of French politics lately, and they have the same thing where they're having to say repeatedly, the people are sovereign. That's who they're sovereign over their government. That's who is in charge of government. And, these are government servants. They're serving the public and not anybody else. Something has gone very, very wrong. And I don't know how we fully correct it, but it's scary and disgusting at the same time.
You're exactly right. I think President Trump is doing what he can. The media is not helping. The legacy media, mainstream media is not helping. They're trying to convince the public that he's weaponizing the justice system. He's not. He is defending us. When they say, oh, he's going after people who went after him. No, he's not. He's going after people who went after us. And if we tell him to get out of the way, they're just going to come for us. And so we need him to continue to stand there and continue to take those bullets. Not literally, God, I didn't mean it that way, sorry. But continue to take those shots that people are firing at us. And so we need him to continue to do that.
What's happening at Judicial Watch? What are you guys working on there?
We've got good stuff. I had a tranche, I think it's up on our website now, but I had a tranche of documents come from the Department of Homeland Security about Tim Walz being connected with the CCP. And prior to the 2020 election, the Biden Department of Homeland Security was concerned that China was very interested in seeing Tim Walz make it to, not the White House, but make it, I guess, to the vice presidency. We are still going after Epstein files. We're going after, pretty much everything in the news. I'm working on a lot of the stuff surrounding the Electors cases, because I do think that this was a coordinated effort, a political hit job, multi-statewide, to go after people who supported Donald Trump for the purpose of chilling political activity. So that's currently what I'm digging up.
Thinking about the CCP going after Tim Walz. Normally, they are so careful and astute and where they place their bets. How'd they get that one so wrong? Maybe they had a lot of influence.
Yeah, well, my guess is they've placed a lot of bets in a lot of places, which we haven't necessarily even discovered yet. But he was one of them.
That's probably true.
You know, he popped up and was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they were laughing about it, going, I didn't see that coming, you know. But
I'm not sure they have a sense of humor. But
well, that
could be. Well, listen, I leave sort of frightened, this conversation. I leave sort of worried, and I want to call my friends at the DOJ and urge them on to what's going on here? How much danger is there to an average citizen, and particularly anybody that speaks publicly? The fact that our free speech was actually under attack, and that people were do you remember 6, 8, maybe 16 months ago, people were saying that really the First Amendment needs to be reconsidered. It was like this crazy shit of all time. What was that? Are we through that? Are we still in jeopardy?
We're not through it. We're in a much better place than we were. So from my assessment, I think we're in a much, much better place. But quite honestly, people need to be held accountable. And we know this because in 2016, Trump's base was chanting, lock her up, lock her up. Everybody wanted to see, Trump's base wanted to see Hillary Clinton prosecuted. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it behind us. I'm going to let her heal. I'm going to let the nation heal. And the nation didn't heal.
Look at this New York Times article. Look at that New York Times article. Look at that.
I can't read it. I'm sorry.
That should go down. It says the First Amendment is out of control. This was a major op-ed.
July 2nd, 2024.
This should go down in infamy. This is like a moment that cannot be forgotten. Put that. We should have it hanging in our offices. Throw darts at it.
For sure. I was a journalist in Arizona, and I got indicted for my journalism. When they turned over the evidence against me, it was my reports. They were just prosecuting me for my report. They still are trying to prosecute me for my reports. But there's a case, I can't remember off the top of my head which one it is, but it was at the Supreme Court, and Justice Ketanji Jackson Brown, she claimed, they were talking about the First Amendment, and she said, well, I'm afraid that the First Amendment is just really, your interpretation of the First Amendment is really hamstringing the government. That's the purpose. That is the purpose of the First Amendment, to hamstring the government. So,
the whole point is to protect us from tyranny, protect us from the government.
From the government shutting down our speech. Yeah. So, yes, the First Amendment's under attack. I think, I think for so long you've had these political elitists that have just controlled the narrative because nobody cared. Nobody was paying attention. People were going to church, going to school, running their business, minding their own business. No one cared about the narrative. But then it got so bad, especially with COVID, that people said, no, now I have to pay attention. I'm going to get involved. And they don't like the fact that we're not just taking their word for it. You've got really popular shows like yours that aren't CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, that people are turning to alternative media sources to get their information. And they're losing control of the narrative. And so I think they're clamping down harder to try to make up for that.
Well, it certainly caught my attention. I became a free speech literalist, absolutist because of it. I just thought that's our only solution, and I bristle at the word narrative. I was always interested in the truth, not a narrative. And a narrative to me just means an adulteration of the truth, which is what we should be striving for.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. And the people that are silenced the most are those trying to tell the truth when it's inconvenient to people pushing a narrative, right? That when they have a specific agenda. You've seen it so much. We've seen it abused in the medical community, I think, at astonishing rates, or at least I'm not in the medical community, but I've noticed it more than I ever have at any other time in my life. So,
it wasn't there before. This is a new thing. This is a new thing that's been exposed. And who knew this was going to be where we ended up? It's just gobsmacking, mind-boggling for me. As somebody, practiced medicine since the early 80s. But, well, listen, where would you like people to find your materials and you and follow and buy the book? Give us all the particulars.
Yes, fantastic. The book just came out today. I'm really excited about it. President Trump did the forward for it. It's available on Amazon.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. If you have a favorite bookstore, go there. You can visit my website, ChristinaBobb.com, or you can find me on social media at Christina_Bobb.
Tag me on stuff. I'd love to amplify some of the things you're doing. You just are clear-headed, and we need a lot more of that. So I appreciate your work and fighting the fight. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Christina Bobb. You can find her at Christina_Bobb. The Christina is CHRISTINA, BOBB. Roseanne coming in tomorrow. So far, so good. She is, rescheduled on us like 3 or 4 times. Nick Hulsher on Thursday, who is Peter McCullough's lead researcher, and we're going to get into some weeds there. Next week, Zach Levi and Batya Ungar-Sargon. This is a guest I'm looking forward to. Joseph Ladapo on the 23rd, Jessica Rose on the 24th. A lot of just really great guests coming your way. So stay tuned. Let me quickly look at you guys and your conversations. The Rumble Rants were very active today. I want to make sure, Susan, anything I should have commented on there or that you saw?
No, I wasn't looking.
Oh.
I was retweeting stuff. Sorry. I'm looking at her
What's
Twitter.
Funny though,
I bet it's very interesting.
Every few shows, I flip on the switch to go live on TikTok just because I want to see what happens, and it's always fun because it's like it used to be like 90% people angry at you for platforming whoever was on the show. Now it's swapped.
I hate that
now
word
it's
even.
like 80% pro Drew, 20% people who have obviously never read any of this stuff and are just listening to what they hear on cable news. It's so bizarre to watch where they're just sitting there and they're saying, why is Drew platforming? Why isn't Drew putting experts on the show when literally you and Dr. Peter McCullough are on screen? Like both of you have about 40 years of experience each in medicine.
Yeah, the word platforming I take as much issue with as the word narrative. Platforming, people have, there are many things everyone should check themselves. If you use the word platforming, you should really think about what you were saying when you said that. What you were saying is, I want to control speech I don't like. That's what you were saying. It became the word platform. Narrative, I want to obfuscate and obscure the truth because I don't like it. Again, everybody, you'd be the prison guards. You would be the prison guards in 1939. And you need to know that and adjust course. You weren't the prison guard. You paid a little, you performed some of the functions in a less extreme circumstance, but you need to know that about yourself and adjust accordingly. And next time an hysteria develops, do not feed into it. Do not be a part of it. All right.
Just remember, China is watching. So when we're on TikTok, because I don't usually do TikTok because I have a problem with China, but will it stay up there? Or is it just live?
The lives don't stay up on TikTok, but everyone watching on TikTok, you can go watch the replays on pretty much every platform that exists. Just look up Dr. Drew. We stream everywhere. And also after I said that, we just got
stop.
Yeah, it'll just disappear. But after I said that, then we got a stream of all of these very nice and kind and intelligent comments from TikTok. So I'm not going to slander you TikTok people anymore. I'm glad you found us on the For You page.
I'm looking at it.
Although Susan is very paranoid of the owners of TikTok. I am a TikTok fan.
I've tried to post on TikTok a couple times.
I think it's a fascinating, brilliant platform. And the people that it's interesting, I would do Instagram lives too. And they have a kind of a different character, the TikTok lives versus the Instagram lives. But we welcome you. And if you have input, go to doctor.com or contact.doctor.com. We I have lots of older shows. You would really enjoy them. We have great guests, and today was no exception. When do the shows go up where they can watch them again? Is it immediately?
Immediately, yeah. You can watch it immediately
find us on
everywhere.
Rumble,
Okay,
X.
so if you want to come to drdrew.com, you can see the whole show if you dropped
Rumble
in
and
on
X
TikTok.
is our favorite. We are not fans of YouTube, but we're out there too, and Facebook.
Rumble, you can follow us
But
there.
here's one that guy or man or woman, Andreas Wanger's 5.
Andreas Wangers.
Namaste. I watched I watched him from 16 and Pregnant and Teen Mom.
Mm.
Yeah, he used to be on that, and that's over now. But you can watch him here. So go to drdrew.tv and you can get all the links to everywhere. We keep our episodes up in perpetuity. So you can go all the way back to 2020 when we were on with Rob Schneider and got censored by
New York Times.
By
and
New York
others.
Times, and they tried to cancel both of us. That was, always fun. So
I didn't have time to get into that story with.
but we did. We went back over it and showed them all the things that they said about us that wasn't true, and how they were wrong.
Well, we brought Rob back again a year later and went over. We read the article together and was like, everything they said was wrong.
But it's
Everything.
been 6 years or 5 years, and we've been with Rob. Well, we've known Rob forever, but it's just trying to dodge that bullet. It's crazy.
So we got to know Rob because he lived here in Pasadena where we lived. And I forget how we met, but we ended up being friends. And
Probably Adam.
We became his dog sitter. that was one of our early functions with
My
Rob.
kids are
You don't
little.
know that story?
Oh, I know that story. Oh, yeah.
Oscar the dog.
His vegan dog.
And all of the
It was a-
escapades and that wild amount of time. Yeah, I've heard some horror stories if it's
Stinky
the same
farts.
dog.
Well,
Stinky.
it was, but we loved Oscar. We really, really, really liked Oscar. He was a great.
I don't
No,
wanna
I'm
shit
not
on
kidding.
the
We
dead
really
dog,
liked Oscar.
but-
He died of diabetes after all his vegan attention. So good job, y'all. Anyway, let's.
He fed it broccoli.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay. You can feed dogs broccoli.
Yeah.
But I don't think he fed them too
It
much.
stinks though.
Anyway,
It's not-
thank you for being here,
stinks.
all of you. The Restream. How do you fix a malignant narcissist? A true malignant narcissist, choosy, you're not going to be able to fix. That you have to kind of either manage or get away from. And in narcissism, generally, if it's going to get better, if it's a true personality disorder, it gets better in the setting of addiction. That's about the only time you see that, really. Long-term therapy sometimes too. All right, everybody, thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock Pacific time. The one and only Roseanne. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.